Yowzers, welcome to the Daily Space Weather. It's Friday. You've survived another week. So far. Almost. We've got a sunspot inside of a coronal hole down here, an active sunspot setting over here, increasing the likelihood of major solar flares. Don't be surprised to see an X-class flare. We've got more images of the sun than we've showed in a long time on the channel. Tons of incredible imagery of solar flaring and more on today's Daily Space Weather video here at the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. Lots of sunspot groups, an uptick in the radio flux, and lots more going on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 named sunspot groups at the moment. This one down here grew very rapidly and is continuing to be interesting, doing things like emitting M-class flares and so on. Again, as it approaches the limb, don't be surprised to see an X-class flare out of that sunspot group. Let's take a brief look at volcanoes here on Volcano Discovery Today's Volcanoes Today page. Shivaluch probably erupting, but volcanic ash not seen in imagery. Bezimiani exploding, flight level 120, 12,000 foot ash plume over central Kamchatka from Bezimiani. Abiko, flight level 120, 12,000 foot ash plume over Paramushir Island. Subanose Jima, 7,000 foot ash plume from Subanose Jima. 6,000 foot ash plume over Halmahera, Indonesia as Ibu explodes. Fuego exploding, flight level 150 over Guatemala. 15,000 foot ash plume from Fuego. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, 21,000 foot ash plume over Colombia from Nevado del Ruiz. Sangay, 20,000 foot ash plume as Sangay explodes. Flight level 200 over Ecuador from Sangay. Flight level 160 over Ecuador as Revenador also exploding in that same country. And down to Peru, Sabancaya exploding, 23,000 foot ash plume. Folks, don't pole vault the caldera. Make Earth not suck again. Looking at global seismicity, it's been very calm here. Seismic activity low over the past 24 hours. A low number of quakes and only small magnitude quakes. Is it the calm before the quake storm? Well, I don't know, but we do have some quakes there in the northern Rockies. So those are some oddities, I guess. But again, no large quakes and a low number of quakes. Nothing really noteworthy to report on here. I think the largest quake was only a 4.8 there in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. And let's continue on to talk about this interesting sunspot within a coronal hole. This is some composite imagery from SDO. And we'll get into that a little bit more in depth here in a moment. First, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux has jumped up 10 points, 10 solar flux units in one day to 118. 118, the new 10.7 centimeter radio flux reading. You'll see this pop up to this point here. An all-around increase in activity, flaring, sunspots, coronal holes, etc. You can see the X-ray profile here ramping up into a background C-class output. No solar storms or geomagnetic unrest forecasted by NOAA in the 3 coming days. Next Earth magnetic moment from space. That's the last 4 hours. And things quite calm out there in the magnetosphere. Next, ground magnetic perturbations. Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Again, things quite calm. Likelihood of seeing aurorae kind of low. You could say auroras if you don't like the term aurorae. So that's the last 4 hours. Geomagnetic calm conditions. We're at a KP1. And for you new viewers out there, Congratulations on realizing the channel exists, and welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted name of news. The KP Index is a measurement of global geomagnetism. Let's go to the real-time solar wind next, which is quite low. It's pretty diffuse and pretty slow. A little uptick here since yesterday in the solar wind density. Solar wind density now around 5 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed in the low 300s, showing up there as 330 kilometers per second. Let's get into magnetic data. There are your GOES magnetometers. Over the past 3 days, nothing too exciting going on there. Next, we do have the North Pole current sheet accelerating this way. Most of our solar activity is in the southern hemisphere, and you can see that North Pole current sheet there in green, just arriving at stereo A as we stream the video. And here's our line of sight plot. Major coronal hole there in the lower left. It is of South Pole orientation. And we've got a long way to go in solar cycle 25, as that south solar polar field needs to make it all the way up to the North Pole. And vice versa. It's got to make it all the way up to the North Pole, and vice versa with the North Pole. So lots more to go with solar cycle 25. So here's the 211 angstroms wavelength. Probably the best wavelength to view coronal holes, and again, sunspot inside of a coronal hole. Never before reported on our channel. Here's a close-up of that oddity. We also hosted an image of that on our Instagram. Follow us on Instagram if you like, instagram.com/smashomash. We also decided to put that up in 304 plus 211 angstroms, since there's a huge filament down there. And that's still there, at least as far as when we did show prep, there's still a filament down there. If you've got an idea of when you expect this to eject, leave us a comment and let us know. Next, we'll go to sunspots. Likelihood of major solar flares is very high, nearly 100%. We're expecting more large flares, especially from sunspot 3088. And you can see how many named groups we have there. At least 6 named groups. I think 3090 may have evaporated. So most of the activity in the southern hemisphere, and let's take a look at sunspots. Here's your SDO continuum. We'll also show the magnetogram. And let's zoom in. There's some closer up imagery. We'll also show the magnetogram. And that sunspot down there in the southwest, 3088, is indeed interesting. So let's do some close-ups here. Here's your northwestern limb. That sunspot's stable here over the past 24 hours. This sunspot rather rapidly evolving. And the opposite polarity fields there, they are north and south of each other. So we're expecting the northern portion of that to continue to accelerate away from the south. It is mostly stable here over the past 24 hours. Let's go to the southeastern limb. A number of sunspot groups there. And 2 of those 3 are beta gamma class as well. So again, likelihood of major flares quite high indeed. And we're going to get into solar flares and close-ups of them. Make sure you follow us on Twitter if you haven't. We just defined a new term today. Chart lighting. If you want to know what that means, twitter.com/smashomash. We invite you to use it in a sentence in our comments section. We did an 11-hour stream last night of the GOES 16 SUVi on the Twitch channel. If you don't follow us on Twitch, you won't see things like that. And if you want to support the channel via subscription services, we'd appreciate your assistance at smashomash.com/smashteam. Join at the gold or silver subscription level. There's even a gold annual paid-up subscription level. That's the best value. It entitles you to some free merch. Some complimentary merch, I should say, with your 1-year annual paid-up gold level Smash Team membership. It's equivalent to getting about 4 months of gold Smash Team membership for free. Thanks to everybody who's been supporting the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, over the past 5.5 years of making the most detailed space weather video on the internet. Help yourself out by becoming a member of SureMed. Enrollment in SureMed is an enrollment in the American Better Health Organization. It's a nonprofit organization focused on improving the health of its members. It's not insurance, but it provides massive discounts on all kinds of important services, like teledoc service, because going to a physical doctor is so 2019. There are even virtual veterinarians, dental discounts on things like vitamins, pharmacy supplies, vitamins, lab testing, MRIs, and lots more. Find links below the video, as well as on the homepage at smashomash.com to my personal SureMed page. And you can sign up via that, or you can give me a call. I can enroll you over the phone in a SureMed membership. Again, links on the homepage as well as below this video. We built our own website in response to pathetic censorship on Facebook in 2018. Go look up their 1-year stock chart. Let us know how Facebook's been doing. What's that? Google, Apple, Facebook, and Twitter not doing so well? Must be because of all the chart lighting. Anyway, welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists as we cite fact after fact. I know, we're so 2019 with all the facts. Sorry about that. Sorry if our facts offended you. We're terribly sorry. Make sure you press like and subscribe. Press like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Check out our playlists. We actually shared a video last night that we shot quite a while ago. Geomagnetic mayhem. Smash and Eugene square off. Who is the geomagnetic jerk? Check our community posts. We put up all kinds of additional stuff. Today's featured product is Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera. Don't pick a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Our finest days lie ahead. So don't pole vault the Caldera, no matter how good your field team is. Leave your vault pole at home. Maybe don't even visit an active volcano, but certainly don't pole vault one. Today I'm wearing the socks. They're quite comfy. Maybe pick up a floor pillow. Or how about the leggings and the A-line dress? Seems like a perfect outfit. Tell your friends and foes, do not pole vault the Caldera. It's not worth it. And let's get back to the X-ray flux, which has risen precipitously since yesterday. You can see we're in a background C-class level of X-ray output. We've got some close-up imagery of some flaring that happened. And we haven't seen any spikes in the proton flux that are really worth commenting on. So this is the last 24 hours in 94 angstroms. We did see an M-class flare come from Sunspot 3088 yesterday. Let's look at some close-up, slowed-down imagery of that. So this is, we're normally showing 30 frames per second. This is 10 frames per second. And this is just the few hours around the flare. That's about 4 hours in 10 frames per second. We've got that in some additional wavelengths as well, like 131 angstroms. There's some lunar occultation happening there with the SDO. And there's your M-class flare. It was a kind of a long duration flare. Some great imagery there for you. Here's some composite imagery, 335 plus 171. Those are both ionized iron, like 131 and 94 angstroms, by the way. And here's 193 plus 304 angstroms. Doesn't look like there was any real coronal mass ejection associated with that. Don't mind us, we're just showing the most detailed imagery and the most comprehensive space weather on the entire internet. Let's pause for station identification. This is the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. So here's a star chart. If you're up before dawn, you may see Venus and the moon close to each other near the horizon. A little sliver of moon, if anything, visible. Is it new moon day? It's got to be close. Also Mars and Jupiter up there near the ecliptic. And it's just a tiny sliver of moon there. It should be a fantastic photo op. You can get Venus and the moon in the same frame, especially if you're up before dawn. I think it's kind of cloudy here, but here is your solar system forecast. Here's where things are now. Here's where things will be in a week. Shout out to my reverse werewolves, who sleep well at night and are useful, productive members of society, happy people who do not cannibalize or support evil. Let's take a look at some coronagraph imagery. This is yesterday's coronagraphs. And yeah, no real coronal mass ejections to report there. I'm going to let that play through one more time. Now, there is a little bit of ejecta there. Nothing major. And unfortunately, we've got limited data from stereo A. So here's today's coronagraphs. So far, that's only 12 frames. And we'll just show you the stereo A imagery and how there's a lack of imagery from stereo A, unfortunately. There is good imagery from the Soho Lasco C3, but stereo A, this data is so old it's fossilized. It ends at 1823 Universal Time yesterday. That's all we've got. And the Soho Lasco C3, maybe a little bit of ejecta headed toward Earth there, but no major coronal mass ejection apparently occurring. Just a diffuse one. And we'll let that play through. Now is when you'd expect to see that, if there was one associated with that M-class flare. And not much to see there on the Soho Lasco C3. So let's continue on here to look at filaments. There are still quite a few filaments here in the northern hemisphere. Some over here in the eastern portion as well. Again, don't be surprised to see X-class flares and major coronal mass ejections. We've also got this huge prominence down here in the southeast. That's part of the reason why we streamed for 11 hours on Twitch, twitch.tv/smashomash. And let's take some more 24-hour images here. Here's 171 angstroms from SDO, the classic house favorite, and also 304 angstroms. Yes, ionized helium. And there is some plasma orientation happening here associated with that flare, but it looks like it just all splashed back down toward the chromosphere. Next, we're moving into bonus features here. We've got some charging hazards. As the electron storm continues, we've got some internal charging caused by high-energy electrons building up inside of satellites. There are internal charging hazards over the Oceania, the West Pacific, Australia, Southern Africa, and moving into the Central Atlantic. There's your GOES electron flux over the past 3 days. A little higher than expected levels of electron flux there. There is the NOAA forecast. NOAA expecting a precipitous dip in electron flux in the coming days. No arguments from me. There's the 1-year chart of the electron flux from Solon.info. And let's take a look at the ionosphere. We'll look at the F layer of the ionosphere, located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. It looks like low-frequency anomalies mainly showing up here. We'll show the anomalygram. That's anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. We show it daily on the channel. There's the latest image, 10 o'clock Universal Time. And here's the total electron content forecast, showing you the free electrons from your GPS satellite down to your handset. This imagery will show you the most likely places for GPS errors. And things remain fairly organized here in the total electron content. If you're wondering the altitudes of things like your GPS satellite, pause the video on the next frame. Distances shown here in miles. Your GPS satellite's located at about 12,500 miles of altitude. Let's refresh the latest intensitygram and latest SDO magnetogram. So the most exciting sunspot is certainly 3088. Quite complex magnetic fields there. It is a beta gamma class for sure. And most of those other sunspot groups are also beta gamma class sunspot groups. So most likely places for major flares are certainly this group and this group. And how about one more series of images from SDO? Well, yeah, let's do that. 304, 211 plus 171 angstroms. There you go. That is yesterday and today so far. And now it's time. Time to move. Move to the realm of meteorology. Thanks for leaving a comment, Tinman1057, and good morning to you as well. Here are the surface winds of the eastern world. Yes. Here are the jet streams, represented by the 250 hectopascal winds. Jet streams of the western world, the Americas, mostly staying north of the U.S. here. Some high pressure zone right here near the U.S.-Mexico border. That is a high pressure zone, upper level anticyclone happening there. There are surface winds. Here are surface winds of the central world. And here are the jet streams of the central world. Here's your jet stream forecast based on the GFS model for the next 72 hours over the U.S. We are expecting a largely incoherent jet stream over the U.S. A little bit of a dip here, some cold air making its way into Washington, Idaho, and Montana. But besides that, jet stream mostly staying north of the U.S. Next to your weather.gov map, and we still have some flood warnings and some flood watches here in especially Mississippi and Alabama. If your county is lit, head to weather.gov and click your county. We can't go over all of those counties, although there's not that many warnings at the moment. Here's your 72-hour GFS your GFS total accumulated precipitation forecast. Heavy rains forecasted for portions of Florida. They're expecting like 4 inches of rain there in some isolated regions of Florida. Again, that's your GFS 72-hour total accumulated precipitation forecast. Precipitation total shown here in inches. Next, your pressure map. High pressure dominating the northern Pacific with one isolated low mixed in there. High pressure over Greenland. Low pressure to the east of Iceland. Here's your lightning mapper. That's where the active lightning's been. Let's show where it is. Here's your real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. We've got some active cells here in South Dakota. Hey, Pierre, there's lightning to your west. Man, imagine the fishing spots on that river. Dag. I suspect there's some good fishing in that desolate region. Let us know if you've ever fished South Dakota. Some northern Canadian lightning showing up there. Also some lightning in Western Europe. A bunch of sporadic lightning cells showing up there. And let's continue on. And who knows what's in store next, because we're waiting for a page to load here. It's our Accuweather Doppler radar. We decided to get rid of radar.weather.gov because it was performing very poorly for the Smash News Network least busted name of news. So we decided to switch to Accuweather, at least for today's imagery. There is your Doppler radar. We'll zoom in here on the lower 48. Those are some strong storms there in South Dakota. Very heavy rains there, certainly, as well as likely some damaging wind, possibly hail. Dag, what the hell is going on in South Dakota? Dag. Here is clouds and fog using the shortwave radiation satellite. One very significant isolated cell there in South Dakota. There you can see all that moisture. It's colliding with some dry, massive air, creating massive pressure gradients, causing the atmosphere to be unable to support all of that moisture. Here's a recap. U.S. Doppler radar map. Shortwave radiation satellite. And there is the water vapor. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network least busted name in news, where we cite facts, we debunk frauds, and we don't do anything to promote propaganda. Thanks for tuning in. And may that solar wind be at your back.